Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to our research seminar on cultural transfer and sustainability. So, a key moment in our Enlight BIP, connecting cultures. So, after several days of intensive group work, engaging with local social cultural agents, experimenting firsthand with the complexities of connecting cultures, it's time for what we could call the academic apotheosis of this week. No? So let's say that this seminar marks a return to the academic reflection, but with double strength. So on the one hand, we will have the pleasure of listening to invited lectures from international experts who will share their latest research and perspectives on the topics we've been exploring: translation, diversity, post-humanism, cultural ecological sustainability, and so on. And then on the other hand, it's this afternoon, it will be your turn. So you will present your group projects, bringing a great diversity of topics, but all closely tied to our central challenge: how can we connect cultures in a meaningful and sustainable way? So this two-day seminar, or one day, two-day seminar, is organized in collaboration with the research group Ideolith. And before we begin, I would like to sincerely thank all the lecturers who have accepted our invitation. Your presence here greatly enriches this event. So for today's program, we have divided morning into two sessions. In each session, speakers will have about 15-20 minutes for their presentations, after which we will open the floor to a debate with the audience. Yeah. I warmly invite all of you, especially students of the Enlight BIP course, to actively engage in these discussions. So it is not just about listening, it is an opportunity to connect what you hear today with your own research and with the challenges you have been working on. So we would love to hear you share these connections during the Q&A sessions. But also, and even more importantly, we hope you will reflect on them in your final reports. So let's take the chance to bridge academic theory with practical experience and continue building meaningful cultural connections. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Professor Ibon Manterola from the University of the Basque Country. He is member of the UNESCO Chair of World Language Heritage here at the university, an expert in immersion education, multilingual didactics, and new speakers of minority languages. So today he will offer us a broader perspective to frame our seminar with a talk titled "The Missing o Garapen jasangarrirako Helburuetan bat falta da, the Missing Sustainable Developmental Goal." So, join me in welcome Professor Ibon Manterola. The floor is yours.
Eskerrik asko aurkezpenagatik eta gonbidapenagatik, Frederic. I'm pleased to participate in this seminar. Even if the talk will be in English, let me address a few words in Basque so that you can figure out what it looks like or how it sounds participating in a conference delivered in one of the two official languages of the Basque Autonomous Community. Indeed, as you already may know, a very significant part of the classes and conferences organized and delivered at this faculty and overall at our university are delivered through the medium of Basque. I've got translations, no worries. Nire saioaren helburu nagusia da, garapen jasangarriaren eta hizkuntzaren dimentsioaren artean dauden loturak nabarmentzea. Zehatzago esan da, saiatuko naiz argudiatzen, garapen jasangarria posible izateko ezinbestean, erdigunean jarri behar dela hizkuntza gutxituen sustapena eta hizkuntza aniztasunarena. Lehen da bizi, hizkuntza ondarearen UNESCO katedra aurkeztuko dizuet. Aurkezpenean ikusko duzuen moduan, gure UNESCO katedra eragile oso importantea ari da izaten, garapen jasangarriaren eztabaidan, hizkuntzaren osagaia erdigunean jartzen. Gero, hainbat argudio emango ditut, garapen jasangarria eta hizkuntzaren arteko loturak uler daitezen. Hirugarrenik, Nazio Batuen erakundeak sustatzen dituen 17 helburuak, garapen jasangarrirako 17 helburuak aurkeztuko ditut, eta kritika bat egingo dut, kritika edo, eztabaida bat. Ez delako bat ere kontuan hartzen, hizkuntzak daukan papera, garapen jasangarrian, 17 helburu horietan, eta kulturaren alderdia ere arin tratatzen delako. Azkenik, 17 gehi bat helburua edo proiektu aurkeztuko dut, hau da, agendan, 2030 agendan, 17 helburuei, 18. helburu bat gehitzeko proiektua. Let me first of all introduce the UNESCO Chair on World Language Heritage, who we are, what we do, why we do. Right? So the chair was established as a result of the agreement between the university, our university, and UNESCO. Previous to the creation of the chair, the Basque headquarters of UNESCO Etxea, at the request of UNESCO Paris, elaborated a worldwide report on languages. Once the report was published in the form of a book, a very famous book at that time, and still, the university and UNESCO signed the agreement, and the chair was created in 2007. Itziar Idiazabal was the first coordinator. Our chair has the following main goals: to promote and offer training on language heritage, to promote and carry out research on language and cultural heritage in the Basque Country and worldwide, to inform the Basque society on issues related to world language heritage, and to try to raise awareness about the need to promote and preserve it. Also to reinforce the collaboration between international organizations that work in similar endeavors and projects, and to try to establish networks with such international organizations. Okay. Now I will mention some of the projects undertaken by the UNESCO Chair, just a few. There are quite a lot more, but just a few. And I will talk later on about the 17+1 project, right, at the end of my talk. So every 21st of February, we celebrate the International Mother Language Day. You may know about it. We organize diverse types of seminars, meetings, and we try to elaborate digital materials so that, in order to try to disseminate positive attitudes towards diversity, linguistic diversity, and the diversity of mother tongues here in the Basque Country and worldwide. Another project, area of work is related to linguistic cooperation. Several members of the UNESCO Chair participate at diverse linguistic cooperation projects. In such projects, training and advice is shared between minoritized linguistic community members. So, for instance, some of our colleagues are involved in a linguistic cooperation project in Colombia with the NASA UWE community since 2012, I guess, yeah. Among others, teacher training programs have been created in the context of bilingual education, in partnership with indigenous institutions, NASA indigenous institutions, and by organizing different types of courses. I've listed some publications of our chair colleagues where you can read and learn about those linguistic cooperation projects. So now, in this section, I will try to mention some ideas about the links between sustainable development and minoritized languages. I will base my explanation on a recent publication with Jone Goirigolzarri and Inés García Ascoaga, who is the current coordinator of the UNESCO chair. Sustainable development remains an open concept with countless interpretations and conceptualizations depending on the context. One of the best known approaches defines it on the basis of three interconnected pillars or dimensions of sustainability: economic, social, and environmental. In recent years, however, new reflections have emerged, including one that seeks to explore the links between sustainability and cultural and linguistic diversity. In this vein, Desain et al., in a work published in 2015, have positioned culture as the fourth pillar of sustainability and analyzed how sustainable development can act as a vehicle for sustaining different cultural forms. They have also raised interesting reflections on the extent to which the most transformative visions of sustainability require a cultural change of attitudes and behaviors among citizens. Similarly, recent studies seek to analyze the benefits of integrating minority language concerns into global debates on sustainable development. One of the most important contributions in this regard comes from Suzanne Romain, who argues that language is the missing link in the global sustainable debate. Gorenflo and Romain have investigated the connections between linguistic diversity and biological diversity. They argue that scientific evidence points to the interconnection between indigenous language conservation and biological diversity, which they argue could make a common strategy for dual cultural and environmental conservation feasible. Thus, Romain and Gorenflo offer a particular strategy for integrating concerns about the future of minoritized or endangered languages into sustainable development debates, with a focus on biological and ecological sustainability. However, this approach seems tailored to a particular set of ecological and linguistic circumstances. The type of geographical locations analyzed by those authors are characterized by significantly high levels of biodiversity, and most are located in post-colonial territories in Asia and Africa. In these places, communities are often small and very highly minoritized, living in subsistence conditions. Their languages are not official or even codified, and they are even classified as highly endangered. In this sense, Gorenflo and Romain themselves ask whether there are alternative ways of articulating the link between sustainable development and the language issue. It is to be expected that if the context changes, the relationship between language and sustainable development will also change. So, a search for Wally now. Where is language among the 17 goals? As you already know, the United Nations launched the 2030 Agenda, which includes 17 goals and 169 targets. As it is said in the preamble, the agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace in larger freedom, eradicating poverty in all forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement or are invited to implement this plan. The agenda claims that no one will be left behind. The 17 sustainable development goals and all the targets balance the three dimensions of sustainable development: The three dimensions I already mentioned, the economic one, the social one, and the environmental one. However, among the 17 goals and all the targets, we find little support for the cultural and linguistic characteristics of individuals and ethno-linguistic groups. The following are two of the few mentions that could somehow be associated with it. Goal 4, it talks about the appreciation of cultural diversity and the contribution of culture to sustainable development, when the goal is related to education, as you know. And goal 11 related to safe, resilient, and sustainable cities. There is a very general mention to the world's cultural and natural heritage. Now, let's think about the reasons that justify the need to articulate sustainable development and language. Many authors, many institutions, including UNESCO, have claimed that fostering linguistic diversity and minoritized languages is a sine qua non condition for sustainable development. I will refer to a chapter by Susan Romain in a book edited by Itziar Idiazabal and Manel Perez Caurel. The title of the book is, you've got on the screen, Linguistic Diversity, Minority Languages and Sustainable Development. This book is part of one of the projects, the Sustainability and Language Project of the UNESCO Chair. Okay. So here, Susan Romain argues that policies that discriminate against the languages of the marginalized poor severely compromise the power of global development agendas to improve their lives. She emphasizes that considering linguistic diversity is fundamental if global agendas of sustainability will succeed. The cross-cutting effects of linguistic diversity on all aspects of human welfare mean that these agendas cannot reach the bottom billion until they speak to them in their own languages. Romain establishes a link between minority languages and economic, social, and health risks. So speaking a minority language constitutes an economic, social, and health risk because ethno-linguistic minorities comprise a large proportion of the bottom 20% still living in extreme poverty, suffering from poor health, lack of education, and deteriorating environments. More specifically, she provides percentages in the following terms. With nearly 75% of the world's 7,000 or more languages concentrated into a small number of biodiversity hotspots inhabited by some of the poorest people, the fate of most of our planet's biological, linguistic, cultural diversity lies in the hands of a small number of the world's poorest people who are most vulnerable to pressures of globalization and who are most marginalized by inequality of access to development. Romain highlights that education in international languages, only in international languages and ignoring other languages, is a key factor, is a key element fostering inequality and lack of sustainable development, she says. The exclusion of up to 90% of the world languages from education constitutes linguistic and social injustice. The groups most impacted by injustices in language policy and planning, especially in education, are the rural poor, and she insists on this, women and girls in particular, who speak languages not represented in formal education, informal structures such as school. Okay. So now I will introduce the 17+1, as we call it, the 17+1 project. Here you have some references in Basque and Spanish. You can access the Basque text and then use the neuronal translators. Nowadays you can read in Basque, about. Yeah. Okay. At the beginning of this 2017-18 academic year, at a school in Donostia San Sebastian that is called EASO Politecnicoa. The teacher and one of the teachers of that school and member of the chair, Mikel Mendizabal, was teaching a course on education and environmental control. And he began to work together with the students to work on the 2030 agenda and the 17 goals, right? And they read and studied and debated about the agenda, and they realized that the agenda barely mentioned languages and cultures. For this reason, they proposed, the teacher and the students, they proposed adding a new goal to the 17 goals, the linguistic and a goal related to the promotion of linguistic and cultural diversity. From there, the UNESCO Chair on World Language Heritage took on the mission of promoting the 18th goal of linguistic and cultural diversity. And the chair proposed the following explanation or the following wording for the 18th goal. So the target would be to guarantee the presence and recognition of all languages and cultures as an essential factor for personal and social development. And then the chair proposed a series of targets, right? So empower and give visibility to minoritized language communities in order to strengthen different identities, to promote appropriate legislation and effective policy strategies, to ensure that all languages are present in the respective education systems, at least at primary or, and secondary levels, and why not at university, as it is the case of the Basque Country, right? To promote bilingual or plurilingual education teaching programs in order to try to guarantee that students will be competent not only in international and hegemonic languages, but also in their own mother tongues, mother languages, okay? To reduce the digital divide, to ensure the presence of minoritized languages in all written and audiovisual media and in the area of new technologies, to promote the provision of public services and especially health and justice services in the languages, in minoritized languages, and in the domain of international cooperation programs to take into account the linguistic dimension in all the phases of such cooperation programs. Okay. The initiative of the UNESCO Chair and the EASO Polytechnic School of San Sebastian, Donostia, has been gradually expanding to different organizations and institutions here in the Basque Country, including our university, which has included the 18th goal in the agenda. There are a series of strategies, campaigns, trying to disseminate this 18th goal. The Basque government of the Basque Autonomous Community has taken an active role in the definition of SDG 18. They established a collaboration process with diverse stakeholders in order to specify the targets of the goal. According to the Basque government, they say, or their version of the 18th goal, the main objective of the goal is to ensure the presence and recognition of all languages and cultures, linguistic and cultural diversity as a key factor for social cohesion and personal and social development. The goals or the targets include the importance of guaranteeing the linguistic rights of all people. They talk about empowering minority language communities. They talk about the importance of integrating languages at the schools, in the workplace, in the media, public institutions, in policies in favor of gender equality, etc. All these targets are directly or more or less directly interlinked with several of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, such as quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, reducing inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, peace, justice and strong institutions, and partnerships to achieve the goals. Okay. So I hope that this brief presentation was more or less useful for those who want to delve into all these issues on sustainable development, linguistic diversity, and minoritized languages. As you have seen, these issues are important and strong issues here in the Basque Country at the university, but also worldwide. Eskerrik asko, thank you for your attention.